Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. My name is Mark Rosekind. I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. Primary information that I'm going to provide is in 6 different areas, information that's been obtained through investigation activity today. Before I begin, let me just say that I had a chance to go on site earlier today, which gave me a chance to see the wreckage, see our investigators at work, see the other folks who are supporting our investigators, and get a chance to actually see the site as well. There have been questions about the remoteness of the site, and I can tell you it's 1.8 miles off the main road, another 0.7 miles by ATV, another 80 yards hiking, and then about a 10-foot ladder climb just to get to the site. So it's quite remote. And I do want to thank the National Park Service, who's just done a terrific job helping us get access and work the investigation. So I have 6 areas I'd like to talk about. I mentioned earlier that in Washington, D.C., our air traffic control specialists have been reviewing radar data. So let me tell you what we've learned thus far about the flight. The aircraft took off from McCarran Airport, flew north up the Strip, and then turned due east for about 5 miles away from the airport. It then turned southeast at about 3,500 feet altitude toward the Hoover Dam. Now, all of that is a normal departure and route for one of these tour operations. About 1 minute before the impact, the aircraft climbed to 4,100 feet, makes a left turn. It appears to be about a 90-degree turn, which means it's a fairly sharp turn. It then descends back to 3,500 feet, and about 20 seconds later, makes a left turn and steep descent directly over the crash site. This last part, the climb and left turn, are not part of a normal tour route. So we've learned that from our air traffic controller's review of radar data. 2, maintenance records. According to the operator, and some of this I'll let you know which parts have now been confirmed by our investigators, the accident aircraft underwent normal 100-hour maintenance the day before the accident. The engine was changed, and was changed due to reaching life limits. There were also 2 actuators changed, one in the tail and one of 3 in the main rotors. Those were also changed due to life limits. Again, the operator reported this, and then today our review of maintenance records were able to confirm this information. After the maintenance, there was 1 maintenance flight, a maintenance check basically, 2 full tour flights, and then the 3rd full tour flight was the accident flight. Number 3, at the accident site today, the power plants group separated the engine from the wreckage. An initial on-scene examination indicated that the engine was producing power at impact. 4, our airworthiness group documented systems and structures on the aircraft and identified all of the servo actuators from the aircraft, and they were removed and will be closer examined. Number 5, our Ops Human Factors group. They got to the site to visit and then spend most of their day at the operator's headquarters in Las Vegas. They are in the process of interviewing Sundance Helicopters personnel. This will include chief pilot, a training pilot, management. They'll be looking for information about typical routes, history about the pilot. We are already gathering information about his flight hours and training, and any kind of sort of recent trip information that we can gather. Human Factors will create a 72-hour history of the pilot, so we know exactly what he was doing in the 72 hours leading up to the accident. And the Human Factors group will also do an evaluation of the maintenance work. So they'll be looking at manuals, training, and 72-hour history of the folks who actually did the maintenance as well. And then number 6, more aerial photos were taken today, and we're going to thank the Bureau of Land Reclamation for providing us access to do that. And the other is that NTSB photographers were on site also collecting photos, and so we are now in the process of going through those, and we'll make those available to you, and we'll figure out by tomorrow basically in what form we're going to be able to get those to you. Those are my 6 points, just so you know, for tomorrow. Full day on Saturday. Again, I'm just going to highlight, we were here for barely 3 or 4 hours on the first day, Thursday. Today was really the first full day of investigation. Tomorrow is the second full day of investigation. They will be collecting parts. Sunday, recovery will begin, which means moving parts to a secure location in Phoenix. Interviews are going to continue with the operator and with witnesses, and the maintenance records, which we talked about, will get an even further review. Right now, we're planning to do another update briefing tomorrow, 5 p.m. here. And to get any further information about things that develop or about tomorrow's briefing, etc., again, I recommend you follow us on Twitter, which is twitter.com/NTSB, or on the NTSB website, which is just ntsb.gov, or be in touch with our public affairs officers. And Peter Knutson you've met, and Keith Holloway back here also have the information. So we have time for some questions.
When you talked about the climb the minute before impact and the left turn, what does that indicate in terms of your knowledge just of helicopters that may be an indicating factor with that?
So the question is sort of, is there any way to analyze, or what kind of interpretation could make of that left turn at the end? And at this point, we don't know what that means. And so I think the reason I broke it out the way I did is the first part of that, up to the last minute, was all standard, normal tour operating procedure. And we understand not just of this operator, but of many others that do that. The last minute are where things changed. Why? That part we don't know yet.
Do you know the time of when that left turn was made until impact? Do you know, estimated about how long that took?
So the question is about how much time it went from the left turn until impact. Do we know that?
We do. I'll estimate a little over a minute. I can look it up and give it to you exactly.
From the left turn?
From the left turn, the beginning of the left turn to impact, a little over a minute.
In analyzing the pilot's 72-hour history before the crash, what are the type of factors that you guys will be looking for?
So the question is, what is evaluated in the 72-hour history before the accident? Our human factors people are going to look at things like their work-rest pattern. So we want to know how much sleep they had. They'll be asking about sleep disorders, for example. They're going to ask about meals, any health problems, things going on at home. So really anything that happened in those 3 days, to understand exactly how much sleep they got, when they were eating, were there any problems, anything we could identify that could have had an effect on the pilot at the time of the accident.
Can you explain what airworthiness is?
Can we explain what airworthiness is?
Sure. In the context that we're talking about, airworthiness, the context that we're talking about for our investigation, airworthiness are the factors involved in the aircraft structure and the aircraft systems that we'll be examining to make sure that they worked properly and what evidence they can give us about the causes of the accident or the factors therein.
But nothing stuck out to you as out of the ordinary?
Right now it's too early to say that.
So the question is, did anything stick out now, and right now it's too early to tell that?
Mr. Roskin, you mentioned the two previous, the test flight and the two previous flights before this third fatal flight. Were there any anomalies reported or recorded in those flights?
So we did report that after the maintenance, there was a maintenance check flight and then 2 full tour flights before the accident one. That's part of what we're looking at. Not just the maintenance records, but any other kind of operational records of anything that would have been unusual that happened on those 2 previous flights. We don't have anything to report now, but clearly that's one of the things we'll be looking at, absolutely.
You said yesterday you expected to speak to the 2 witnesses. Have you? What did they tell you? And have there been other witnesses identified?
So the question is whether we've been able to talk about the 2 witnesses that we reported yesterday, what they had to say, any others coming. I think those are in progress. Yeah, so they're in progress. And I'm not going to go too far, but, you know, it's people will report something. We have to identify them. We actually have to have our folks set up the appointment. And then go through a very structured examination of what's going on. So those things are in progress right now.
Are there other witnesses as well?
Have we had other witnesses? The question is, are there other witnesses? Has any other witness come forward yet that we know of?
Yes.
Yeah?
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's what you can...
The question is, are there other witnesses that have come out? We have been contacted by a couple of employees of the water plant nearby the crash site that gave us some written statements as well.
And those are beyond the other that we had previously?
Yeah, those are beyond the others.
Okay.
That's correct.
So, and that, just to highlight, but I think what's important about that is we had some initial contact, and of course other people are still coming forward, and we have 2 others at this point. Was that your question? Yeah.
Take one more question.
The engine change before that, obviously after 100 hours, is it consistent with the previous engine? Is it the same engine, or did they make any changes that were not maybe the same manufacturer, anything different about the change to the parts that they had to because of the 100 hours?
So just to differentiate that, the 100 hours was sort of a regular maintenance check that the helicopter would go through.
Okay.
And then the engine and actuator changes had to do with those specific parts reaching sort of a life limit when they have to be changed. And so part of what the maintenance record review now is going to be is to know exactly which parts were changed and making sure all that was done correctly.
So were they consistent, though, with the previous one, same manufacturer of the parts?
And the question is, same manufacturers, that's exactly what the review of maintenance records is. Now that we know they were changed, we have to go in and get the specifics of what was required. Was it really done? Was a check on that done besides the flight, et cetera? That's exactly what now, having this information allows us to go into more detail of the maintenance records to figure out if what was expected to be done actually got done and done correctly.
Can you say if
So
there's-
we're going to end right now for the moment, because that was the last question. And I would say,
a new engine or a
I'm just going to say, we've got Peter and Keith, if there are other things we can do. But we'll do our final, we'll do for sure one tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We're going to try and give you as much update. What I will say is clearly with the first full day, we're talking about a lot of things that are starting to emerge. And so tomorrow at 5, we hope to have more update. Thanks.